Hi everyone. In the next few videos, I'm going to be going over various glitches and bugs that have existed in multiple versions of Happy Wheels, and how users have been able to use these glitches to improve their level building process. I'm glad to finally be getting around to this. I've covered most of the basic conceptual framework of how the game plays, with the different character play styles and the genres of levels. Now I can get into the more technical, applied aspects of this very rich game design platform. Please enjoy. Now, at this point, it's really a cliche to talk about glitches in Happy Wheels. If you search glitch in the browser, you'll see a lot of stupid, clickbaity levels. Most of these aren't even legitimate glitches. They're either completely faked, or they're unexpected but easily explainable consequences of how certain objects interact. Jim even added a line about not making fake glitches to the site's terms of use, because the issue is that cancerous. Like, here's one gimmick that used to be popular. Sometimes when your responsible son took damage, his feet would break off of his legs. But the game would still display the sprites for his feet attached to his legs. See? He has 2 feet over here, and another pair over there. So it looks like they were somehow duplicated due to the damage. Oh, look, it's the Jimmy's shoes glitch. Isn't that crazy? Like, alright, I guess that there was some small error in the game that caused his feet to be displayed incorrectly. Maybe Jim forgot to draw the sprite for the son's legs with no feet. But that's not interesting. It has no effect on gameplay. It's just a weird quirk that got turned into a dumb gimmick. So I'm not going to cover every random, trivial little graphical bug in the game. It would take way too long, and honestly, who cares? For this video, I'm only going to cover the major glitches that have had some significant impact on how the game is played and how users have made levels. First, I'm going to cover what has come to be known as the color selector glitch. I mentioned this one briefly in part 1 of this retrospective series, and I'm finally getting back around to it. This was a very short-lived glitch. It first appeared on the 22nd of June, 2014, and Jim's team fixed it only a few days later. Basically, this glitch made it very difficult to place down new shapes in a level in the editor. Because this glitch occurred so briefly, I didn't think to get a video recording of it at the time. Fortunately, the Happy Wheels YouTuber Mr. Larry made a detailed demonstration on his channel. I'm going to borrow some of his video later. Usually when I want to create a shape, it's very easy. I click on the shape drop-down menu and I select the shape that I want. If I don't click any of the 3 buttons, it defaults to the rectangle. Then I click anywhere on the canvas where I want to place the shape. If I want to change the color, I click on the shape again, and I select a swatch from the pop-up window that appears. I can also access this window from the shape selection menu by clicking on the preset color, so it's possible to change the shape's color before I even place it down. That's how the system is supposed to work. Here's how it worked when the color selector glitch was happening. Larry opens the shape menu, and it defaults to the rectangle shape. Then he opens the swatch menu. Already, the editor is acting weird. Usually, when a user mouses over a color swatch, the preview color on the top left of the window temporarily changes to that color. Here, it's not changing. It's staying at the default blue. After he's done with that, he clicks on the canvas to place down the rectangle. However, the rectangle doesn't appear on the canvas. Instead, it continues to float with his cursor. Also, the color preview on the top left of the swatch window changes to white, which is the color of the background. He then clicks away, and he sees that the same phenomenon occurs wherever he clicks. If he clicks on the gray scroll bar, the color preview becomes gray. If he clicks on the blue part of the color space, the preview becomes blue, but the bubble that represents the selected color in the color space doesn't move. When this is happening, it becomes impossible to place down a shape just by clicking as one would normally do. Instead of placing it down, the click only changes the shape's color. This was a major inconvenience. Larry stated that he was eventually able to place down a shape when he pressed either escape or the spacebar. Apparently when he does this, the color swatch window disappears, and he's able to place down a shape simply by clicking, as it would work normally. That's the same advice that some users were giving in the comments section of Jim's post about the glitch. I tried these methods, and they did not work for me. Even when I pressed space or escape, the swatches continued to appear on screen, and the selected color would change to whatever I clicked on last. Perhaps that's an instance of the glitch acting differently on different computers. I was completely unable to place down new shapes for the entire several days when the glitch was happening. But some people didn't encounter the glitch at all. Jim received multiple complaints from users who weren't able to make shapes at that time. At first, Jim wasn't able to reproduce the glitch on either of his personal computers, and he was really depending on players to give him accurate descriptions of the problem. He wasn't even sure what could have caused the glitch, because he hadn't made any recent change to the color selector system at that time in 2014. After a few days, Jim's team must have figured out how to fix the glitch, because it stopped happening, though he never made a follow-up post to actually explain what was causing the problem. For me, personally, the color selector glitch is unique among Happy Wheels glitches, because I remember exactly what I was doing when I first encountered it. I had been working on my level QuickTime intermittently throughout the month of June 2014. On the 21st, I was finally almost finished with the level. I had begun to make the art of the end card, and I decided to take a break. I would finish the end card the next day, and maybe make a few small changes to the level's layout. I came back to the editor the next day on the 22nd, and I first encountered the glitch. I wanted to add disco lights to the end card, which I would have represented with spinning triangles of different colors, but the editor wouldn't let me place down the triangles. Wherever I clicked on the canvas, the triangle would change to the color of the white background instead of being placed down. I tried to make it work, to no avail. After a while, I decided to just publish the level with no lights on the end card. I would later use my idea for spinning disco lights on my level Chivalry. So yeah, this glitch was a weird event that happened for a few days. It didn't have a long-lasting impact on the game, but it was a major inconvenience for many level creators. The black hole is a very commonly used and widely known glitch. I've used it in most of my narrative-driven levels. This glitch allows the player character and any other non-fixed shapes in the level to be teleported to the top left corner of the level's area. For this glitch to work, I have to make a black hole. This is a non-fixed shape that has its density set to a value that is not a real number. In the level editor, this value is represented as NaN, not a number. It may be a bit tricky to change the density to a non-number value, because the level editor only allows me to input numbers and periods into this fillable space. Look, I'm trying to type the letters NaN, but nothing is appearing. If I hit enter when the space is blank, or when it's set to 0, the value will default to 0.1. This is probably a measure put in place to stop non-number values from being inputted and causing errors. So the trick is to type the numbers and the period in a way that disrupts the system. There are a few different combinations of characters that work. I would always input it as 0.0. I recently discovered that it also works if you just input the decimal dot with no number at all. Because the decimal point doesn't appear in the expected syntactic order, the game can't recognize either of those values as real numbers, and it causes an error. For whatever reason, the character and any non-fixed shape that passes through the area of the shape gets teleported and crunched up in the top left corner of the game area. The black hole can even affect large and dense shapes, like meteors and wrecking balls. This glitch has a very unique look to it. I don't know of any other way to crunch so many objects into a single point. The limbs of the characters get bent into amusing conformations, and the wheels of the vehicle get displaced. But nothing actually breaks. All of the body parts are still connected together if they went into the black hole like that, and there's no blood. All of this happens in a single frame, immediately as the shape passes through the black hole. The black hole itself is invisible. It appears in the same place where I placed it in the level editor, but it doesn't actually appear. And it's not affected by gravity, as a normal non-fixed shape would be. It doesn't fall down at all. If you don't include some visual representation of the black hole, players may not even realize what's going on. At one moment, the character is rolling by a seemingly empty area of the level. Then, suddenly, he's crunched into a tight corner. I've noticed that, in the current version of the JavaScript port, transported shapes aren't visible in the top left corner, so they really seem to disappear. I suppose that you could use this black hole glitch to affect some interesting game design. It's a convenient way to remove shapes from the game without having to worry about where they end up. It doesn't take up much space, and it can get rid of obstacles without having to use any complex mechanism. Most level creators don't use the black hole in this way, though. They seem to prefer using it to transport the player character. Obviously, you can't control the character when it's mangled in the corner like this, and there's no way to get out of the corner other than to reset the level entirely. When the player touches the black hole, the run is effectively over. That is, unless if you can somehow complete the level by clicking on a trigger near the top left of the game area. Now, some levels do use the black hole to represent that the player has lost the level. For example, in this level, Santa's Adventure, it's possible to fall through the ice at this point. When I fall through, I hit a black hole, which transports me to the top left corner. There is a little funny graphic and a message that tells me to reset the level. This is a good way to quickly let the player know that the run is over, without having to wait for the character to fall all of the way down and go off of the map. More often than that, the black hole is placed at the very end of a linear level, where the win condition is satisfied. This is how I usually used it. I place a trigger that activates the win condition, and right near the trigger is a black hole. The intention is that the player activates both of them at approximately the same time. The victory banner appears, and the character gets teleported away to where it can't roll away or interact with any more shapes. When the black hole is used in a level, you usually don't see the character crunched up in the corner. Usually, there is an art group that covers up the corner. This space often contains an end card with text and very detailed art. The card may serve as a resolution to the level's plot, or it may just be there to congratulate the player. Many top-level creators have used these end cards to encourage the players to play more of their levels, and even to plug their YouTube channels. I kinda copied their style. Now, of course, you can make foreground art to appear at any point in the level and overlay the physical shapes. You may think that it would be easier to put the end card at the same coordinates as the end of the level, and to make it appear with a trigger. This method does work, but the black hole method is superior. When a level is completed, the player loses control of the character, but the character doesn't stop moving. Gravity and moving shapes in the level continue to act on the vehicle, and it may roll away on its wheels. If the character and the point of view keep moving, you may only have a brief moment to read the end card before it drifts out of the field of view. At the very least, the whole end card won't be visible. The corners will be cut off if they're slightly outside of the character's field of view. With the black hole, you don't have to worry about the character moving. You know exactly where it will end up. The character will be stuck right at the corner, and it won't move. And you'll be able to fill the whole 16:9 field of view with art and text, as it extends downward and to the right from that corner. The melt glitch is another fun glitch that's related to the black hole glitch. It's called such because characters and other shapes seem to melt through the floor. This phenomenon occurs when a black hole teleports away the top surface of a spring platform. For some strange reason, this causes a very powerful force to suddenly pull every non-fixed shape down to the very bottom of the level area. Even large and dense objects like vans and meteors can pass through solid shapes, though they take a little longer. Setting up this glitch can be tricky. It seems that the spring platform and the black hole have to overlap in a very specific way, and there's no exact method to it. If they overlap incorrectly, the melt glitch won't activate. Instead, every non-fixed shape in the level will be teleported away. It's possible to resist the force of the melt glitch and keep the player character alive, if only temporarily. Firstly, you have to select either Wheelchair Guy or Helicopter Man. For Wheelchair Guy, you can slow down the rate at which his body parts are pulled through the floor if you fire his jet engine and position it straight up. If he is stuck in one place, as in a corner, this method will only buy you a few seconds. The force will start to tear him apart once he stops moving. You can delay his death further if you keep him moving in one direction on a flat platform. Of course, he can't move very quickly like this. The force of the melting is weighing down immensely on him, and he needs the engine to cancel it out. So I can only spare a small portion of the engine's thrust to move him either to the left or to the right. Even on a very long platform, the force will eventually crush him down flat and stop his movement. Then it will pull his body parts through the platform. With Helicopter Man, it's much easier to stay alive. I simply have to make him fly up and away from the floor at the beginning of the level. Once he's in the air at a sufficient altitude, he controls as normal. The melting doesn't seem to have any effect on him, but if the craft makes contact with a fixed shape for about a second or more, the melting force suddenly starts to apply. It brings him down and quickly tears him apart, even if I try to fly away. Now, the actual phenomenon of melting seems to be quite complex, and it possibly runs contrary to conventional understandings of how forces are distributed in Happy Wheels. It's obvious that something is compelling these shapes to move downward, but that something is quite different from the force that would be exerted by, let's say, a crusher. When a crusher bears down on physical shapes, they act how you would expect them to act. Objects like characters and trash cans are deformed so that they occupy less vertical space. They may be broken apart or dented, depending on the object. Once the objects are reduced to sufficiently small shapes that can't be flattened any further, the force of the crusher slowly pushes them through the sides and out of the crusher's way. A rigid object, like a rectangle, maintains its shape and volume. The crusher can't deform it at all. A rectangle may be sufficient to stop the crusher completely. If the crusher is sufficiently powerful, it may eventually be able to push the rectangle out one side in a quick movement. Even an extremely powerful crusher can't force objects through a solid shape that's more than a few pixels high. Now, look at how the melting force acts. It affects characters much more than any other type of shape. It tears them apart almost instantly, almost as quickly as a crusher could break them. Unless if you're cancelling out the melting force with something like a jet engine, this too will occur to the player character. First, the force will crush him close to the floor, then his joints will deform, then his body parts will break off one by one and pass through the floor. To contrast, look at how garbage cans and glass act when melted. These objects are usually easily crushed when a force is applied to them. But the melting effect doesn't seem to break them. Unless if another object is bearing down on them with great weight, these objects can easily pass through solid shapes without breaking or deforming in any way. These shapes don't even seem to have very much weight to them. This large rectangle is light enough that I can briefly hold it on my propellers without the helicopter breaking or being forced to the floor. The melt glitch is a very interesting gimmick. It's cool to see shapes just falling through the floor, and it can also be fun to try to fight against the melting and survive as long as possible. However, it is still essentially a gimmick. Its applications in level design are very limited. You wouldn't be able to make a complex obstacle course and then implement the melt glitch at the end as a last trial to stop the character who is moving toward the goal. It doesn't work like that. The melt glitch activates immediately once the level is loaded. I don't think that there's any way to delay it. So if you choose to use this glitch, it ends up being the only major mechanic in the level. Any type of complex platforming is impossible. It's all that the player can do just to keep the character alive temporarily. This is, of course, unless if you make Helicopter Man the playable character. He's able to move around freely for long periods of time, unless if he touches the floor. But at that point, you'd basically be circumventing the effect of the glitch. Instead of showing off a strange outcome of the physics engine, the level becomes, don't touch the floor or you're dead. While it looks cool, it doesn't add much depth to the gameplay. Well, this concludes my first video about the glitches of Happy Wheels. I have a few more bugs and glitches that I want to cover, and I'll discuss them in the next 1 or 2 videos. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.